It's time now for a look at the market action this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, Global Strategist at Kiwoom Securities. Mr. Yu, thanks for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start on Wall Street. Ahead of the big summit with China, the S&P down around 0.1%, the Nasdaq about 0.33%. What are investors seeing out there?
Yes. If you look at the U.S. market, it seems that it's still jittery about the G20 meetings yet, as it showed mixed signals. If you look at the Nasdaq, it was up 0.32%, but that is after quite significant decline of 1.5% on the previous day, while the S&P continues to fall for the 2 days in a row. Even though Mnuchin said that we were about 90% on the way in terms of a China trade deal, and there is a path to complete this, this is definitely positive news, but the market actually kind of started strongly, but fell after in the afternoon. I think that they're still worried that there's on the May 5th of this year, Trump spooked the market by saying that raising the tariff on China from 10 to 25% actually, and he did that. So I think that they're just wondering that if there's a possibility of additional 300 billion won worth of additional taxes related to this. So I think they're just being very cautious. But despite all that, the Asian market did fairly well in expectation for the better news flow coming from the trade war issues. Japan was up 1.2%. Shanghai was up 0.6%. Shenzhen is up 1.2%. Korea also did quite okay with a 0.6% rise. But KOSDAK went down quite significantly by 1.6% on the news of the bio stocks being not strong at this point in time.
Well, meanwhile, the chairman of the Fed has taken this talk we've been hearing of a rate cut down a notch. He was speaking to the Council on Foreign Relations and said essentially that the Fed won't be bending to political interests, which of course is a reference to President Trump. How big of an effect did that have on the market?
Well, clearly that had quite a significant impact the day before yesterday. With that kind of news, as I said, the Nasdaq was down 1.5%. The Powell Fed chairman wants to downplay the rate cut card because the market's expecting too high of the rate cut, as much as 50 to 75 basis point cut within this year. This is creating bubble for bond market. But however, the Fed will lower interest rate by somewhere between 25 to 50 basis point within this year. My basic take is that he will lower the interest rate 25 basis point on July 31st, and then another one by probably sometime in December. Donald Trump has continued to say that Powell is not doing a good job. And in fact, if I look at most of the U.S. numbers coming through in terms of wages as well as PMI numbers, I do think that rate cut is a necessity, at least once, which we expect that to happen in July 31st.
Got it. Well, now it seems we're talking about crypto again, with the Bitcoin on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange up to around $13,000. Why is Bitcoin back, and what might be different this time around?
Yes, as you said, ever since Bitcoin broke out of the lowest bear market range, it has continued to show a very strong run. Not just the Bitcoin price, but crypto assets, other crypto assets such as the Ethereum and Ripple and Litecoins, they're all showing a very strong run. Main reason for this is very simple. Yes, the fourth industrial revolution is affecting the Bitcoin prices, but in addition to that, we are seeing that most of the central banks are lowering interest rate these days. That is creating some worries about currency war. Now, interest on alternative currency investment rises once the value of the currency goes down with a low interest rate environment. So therefore, there's a quite significant interest towards the alternative investment, including the gold as well as cryptocurrency.
Very interesting. All right, Mr. Yu, that's where we're going to have to leave it today. We appreciate your insights. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much.